Hey y'all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to WrestleSode. It is now December 13th. It is a Tuesday, it is 8 p.m., and I am very glad to have all of you here, as it is one of the last streams, if not the last stream, probably for the year, at least in terms of WrestleSode, because nobody's going to watch during the Christmas holidays, unfortunately. So that just kind of happens, but we'll be back, of course, in the new year. But I do have a very special one for you here today, one that I've been waiting for a couple of months now, ever since I heard about this movie that just came out. It's a short little film called Wrestling with the Past. And today we'll be chatting with the director, producer, writer, editor, probably like every other thing that you could possibly think of. I can't believe how much stuff actually goes into making a movie. So we probably not just wore those four hats, but probably a million others. We are speaking with Justin Godlien. And I'm very excited for this. Not only has he worked in that most recent independent film, like I was just talking about, Wrestling with the Past, but he is also working with Corb Lund on a new project called Guitar Lessons, I believe it was called. He also worked with Harlan Abbott, making the recreation of Harlan Abbott from the heavy metal. So he's made a whole bunch of really cool stuff here over the last year and a half or so, I would say, that I've enjoyed very thoroughly, and I can't wait to talk with him more about it here today. Talk a little bit nerd, talk shop, you know what I mean? Like, because I went to film school, and this guy obviously knows a lot about film, so that'll be a lot of fun. And we'll get right into this one. There we go. Hyped for this one. That was my favorite movie of the year, given all the Oscars. It's going to be great. I legitimately really enjoyed Wrestling with the Past. If you haven't seen it, like, seriously, like, the story is fantastic. The cinematography is absolutely amazing, but I don't want to continue to go on and on without actually bringing him in here. So as long as I get the okay here from Justin, if I get the thumbs up, we'll bring him straight in here. There we go. Let's bring in Justin Godlien. Here we go.
What's happening, man?
Hey, buddy. How are you? How are you doing today?
Dude, can you just come by every morning and just pump my tires like that every day?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, like, honestly, if it means I could get like on set or something like that, I will be there to fill any tire that you need. I'll take the pump. I'll bring whatever you need. I'll be a key grip. I'll lift stuff around. Whatever you need, man, I'm there for you. But seriously, it is an honor to have you here. I don't often get the chance to speak with filmmakers. You know, this is very much like a mostly wrestling with like wrestlers interview show, but it's about showcasing wrestling personalities across Canada and people who bring a lot to the to the forefront, and honestly making a film utilizing so many Canadian talents and being filmed like all around here in Alberta and everything like that. Absolutely amazing. So legitimately at the top of my list. Thank you for making something so cool. Seriously.
Thank you for having me, man. This is my very first podcast experience. I listen to them every day, and I've been dying to be on one, so I'm super stoked to be here.
That's amazing. I gotta ask, we'll just start it in there because it's always about learning the person. What's your type of podcast do you listen to? Like, what are you listening to?
I listen to a lot of filmmaking centric ones, and then I listen to post wrestling all the time. That's I got them in the movie somehow, some way. And then I like what else do I like?
Those were the two that interviewed talking about the son. Oh my god, of course I just forgotten the name of the main character.
Finn Wild.
Thank you, Finn Wild. Yeah, so when they were talking, those were be like, hey, this is the kid. I haven't seen him do much in the last couple of years. Great look. Those are the two you're referring to, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you listen to them at all, but they're one of the kind of bigger Canadian wrestling podcasts. So it was really cool to get them involved. And and then I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts. Like, I'm a big fan of like Two Bears, One Cave with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer and that kind of stuff. So
those two are so hilarious together. I can listen to a Tom Segura stand-up any day, honestly.
Totally, man. Bert is just like, he just seems like such a good guy. Like, he's out of his mind, but he just seems like he just like wants to have a good time. He wants everybody else to have a good time, and he just, I don't know. He seems like so nice. So anyway,
those are some great influences there. I mean, some great podcasts, obviously, to be listening to. A lot of my podcasts seem to be focused around wrestling or Star Trek for some reason. I'm not even the biggest Star Trek fan in the world, but for whatever reason, I listen to all the podcasts.
Oh, okay, cool, man. Yeah, I'm like, I dabble in and out of Star Trek. Like, the Next Generation was my jam, though. Like, I'm mid-30s, so that was on like right at the best possible time it could be on for me.
I think we're pretty much the exact same age. Next Generation is obviously my jam as well. If people were
Yeah.
like, "Are you a Kirk or Picard guy?" I'm just like, it's not even close.
Picard,
It's
like
clearly
all day,
Picard.
every day.
I love Picard, and if you tell me that anybody sits in a chair or gets off of a chair better than Will Riker, they're wrong.
The Riker maneuver.
The Riker maneuver. But anyways, let's pull this back, Justin. Obviously, like you've got a lot of really cool stuff that you've been working on here in the last little while. Obviously, you're very close to the Alberta wrestling independent scene and the Canadian wrestling independent scene. How did it start for you in the world of wrestling? How did you fall in love with it to begin with?
My mom used to watch Stampede Wrestling when she was pregnant with me. That's what I tell people. So like, it's just like always been in my blood. I'm here in Calgary, so it's heart country, man. Like wrestling runs deep, and it's not the same as it used to be, but that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to do my short film too. It's just like Alberta wrestling, like we were one of the capitals of pro wrestling, especially in Canada, and I really want to honor that and like maybe start to kind of bring it back and help in any way I can.
I'm going to push that controversial button. I would say Calgary was the Canadian place. You know what I mean?
No, you're probably
a lot of
right.
territories, but I mean, really, it comes down to the hearts in the dungeon and in Stampede Wrestling, in my opinion.
Sure.
So I'm with you. I agree. I'm just outside Calgary. I'm in Strathmore. I'm like 20 minutes away.
Oh, okay, cool.
So you know, I know exactly what you mean. It's great. So you grew up watching Stampede. Did you watch a lot of the TV product as well, or was you mostly just focused on what was here?
I didn't. I always wanted to watch wrestling, and I'd get little snippets of it here and there, but we didn't have cable or anything, and I didn't have an older brother or anything that was into it, so I never knew how to like get at it until I got a little bit older. And one of my best friends, his older brother, would babysit me, and then we'd all watch wrestling together and beat the tar out of each other and whatnot. And then by the time the Attitude Era came around, that's when I like finally had cable and was watching Raw every week.
Walking around on like the playgrounds doing the crotch chops, telling everybody suck it. I remember what it was like you said, we're mid-30s. I mean, this was everybody. Like that was the thing. Wrestling was in the cultural zeitgeist when we were like, 12, 13 years old. Like everybody was paying attention to it. So which was awesome. But I don't know. What do you think these days? What do you think's better, the suck it, or are you a big fan of like the scissoring these days? Because I like the scissor too.
Scissoring feels more progressive to me,
right? It does. It does, right? It's less of a demand, right? It's not like, hey, do this. It's more like, hey, let's enjoy this together on equal grounds.
And everybody can scissor, so
there you go. Well, I guess that's probably a little bit better. How about filmmaking then? Because you really kind of split it down the middle. Like you like wrestling, you watch wrestling, you watch it with your friends, and you beat the tar out of your friends with because that's how everybody did when you were a kid. You watch wrestling, you do suplexes on the couch or on some weird mattress that you just lay it on the floor in the basement somewhere.
On the trampoline all the time. That was the prime spot.
Oh, of course, because you actually could feel like you were like a superhero. Like I could do a flip. Not me, of course. I was like, hey, I could not do a flip, but I assume you were like, let's do flips and suplexes off the trampoline.
Oh yeah, totally.
But what about filmmaking though? Okay, so we know how you like wrestling, but what was your first love of cinema and film? Like, what made you go like, I want to do this?
I was an only child, so I watched a lot of movies and that kind of stuff. I was just kind of always by myself, and I was pretty shy growing up too. So, and I never seemed to live in the right neighborhood. Like I always lived in the wrong neighborhood for the school I went to. So like I didn't always have a lot of friends around, and I wasn't good at making them. So I would just watch movies by myself. And when I was younger, my dad worked in Lake Louise, and he had a friend who was selling his VHS collection. So he'd be like, all right, my buddy's got this movie. Like, do you want any? I was like, yes. Give me that. I want he's got the Alien trilogy. Yeah. Give me that. He's got Predator 2. I didn't even know there was a Predator 2. Give me that. And just kind of, and then I'd wake up early before school and watch them. Like, because I knew I wasn't supposed to watch movies like that, but my dad would give them to me, and then I'd get up at 6 a.m. and watch them before anybody else got up, and then off to school I went.
What were some of your key favorite movies growing up? Like, what were some of those ones that really influenced you, or the ones that you could never stop watching?
Terminator 2 is my favorite movie of all time.
It's good.
It's the best. Like, I remember I'm pretty good friends with Ava Lawless. I think I saw her in the chat.
Yeah.
She's really big on Sylvester Stallone because she's Italian, and I've always been an Arnold guy. And I kept trying to tell her, like, we don't used to argue all the time about like who is better, and she had never seen Terminator 2, and it was they ended up putting it in the theaters in the summer when they show old movies. I was like, yo, let's go see T2. Like, I wish my first time seeing that movie could have been on the big screen. So afterwards, she was like, okay, I get it about Arnold. That was awesome. Right? Yeah, Arnold's the man.
Oh, it's funny that you say that, though, because I think I would agree that Arnold is probably better than Sylvester. However, I would probably say that Rocky is better than any movie that Arnold has ever made in terms of like movies, though.
Yeah, quality. Yeah, Stallone's definitely the better actor, and he's obviously the better writer and director as well. But he just doesn't have.
But it is hard to say that
charisma.
No, it is also hard to say that Rocky is better than Terminator 2, because Terminator 2 might legitimately be the best movie that was like the best series in the film. Like, you know what I mean? Like, most people will always say the first movie is always going to be the best in a series, but Terminator 2 is light years better than Terminator 1, in my opinion.
Totally. And I love Terminator 1 too, but like T2, man, whew, it's got everything you could possibly want in a movie.
It's just, and also for that time, the kind of visual effects that they used, absolutely mind-blowing with the T-1000 and like the liquid metal and everything, blew my mind.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, Terminator I was huge on Terminator. I was huge on like any Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. When my mom and my stepdad first got together, he worked in a gym, so he's a big Arnold guy. And he'd be like, oh, did you see this movie? Did you see this movie? And I was like, I'm fucking 10, bro. Like, no, I haven't seen that. So he would get me all, we'd go to Blockbuster, and yeah, we'd always pick out a new Arnold movie, whether it was like Terminator T1, Terminator 2, Commando, Conan, like all those old 80s ones. So that's like really what I grew up on.
I like this question, so I'll just interject it right here. Arnold is the man, but I don't think he's ever made a movie that's reached as great heights as the all-time smash hit Ready to Rumble, starring Sting. How much did Ready to Rumble influence your love for great cinema and wrestling?
Ready to Rumble is my second favorite movie of all time. So this is position. All right. This is the plan. So Wrestling with the Past, we got the short film.
Right.
Hopefully we can make it into a feature or a television series. And then at that point, I become the Kevin Smith of wrestling movies. And they come to me, they're like, all right, you're the wrestling guy. What are we doing for Ready to Rumble 2? And I'm like, got a treatment right here. Let's do it. I've tweeted at David Arquette so many times, it's actually embarrassing, being like, yo, let me make Ready to Rumble 2.
Without spoiling it, what is your treatment for Ready to Rumble 2? What's your 2-sentence elevator pitch? What happens?
Ready to Rumble again. That's pretty. No, it's Ready to Rumble.
Oh, like ready with the number 2.
Oh yeah. I don't have it worked out so much, but it definitely would revolve around like kids on like the internet, like watching like old King matches on YouTube and being like, where's King? Whatever happened to King? And kind of trying to track.
Well, it's like a reintroduction to them, kind of like how they did with Ghostbusters. They're like, what the heck happened in the New York in the 80s? Like, what was out there?
Totally.
Oh, I could totally see that. It's like a new group of kids coming out crowning everybody. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
Now I really want to see this. That sounds amazing. King becomes Sal Bandini.
I mean, that makes sense. And then he's going to have to die because the mentor always has to die, I guess.
That is the rule of the wise old sage. They give the advice, it's sound, and then they die. And that's a rule of cinema.
It is. It is 100% rule. Oh, I'm wearing a Lawless shirt today.
Beautiful. Nice. More love out there for Ava. But we give them big hearts there. I'm the old guy. I do it like this. I don't know if the new generation does something. I don't know how they do it. Oh, there we go. Good taste in movies and wrestling. But what about video games? What was your favorite wrestling video game? That's true. You were my age. I hope you come up with the right answer on this one.
I was always really big into the WCW games for N64. I kind of like, I played like the WWE games like on like after N64. I ended up getting Xbox and went down that that direction. And I got the odd game, but when I got into high school, I kind of feel like it's the tale as old as time. I kind of got a little too cool for wrestling, or so I thought, and so I kind of dropped off a little bit. But yeah, definitely those old WCW games were, because we had just like in the creative player, we just make all the WWF guys, and so try to have like everybody like kind of. But
Did you have like a very specific creator wrestler that you would bring into every game that you would play? Like, did you make your custom character?
oh, I'm sure I did, but I'm so old I can't remember it.
WWF attitude clears. Well, for me, it was always I like, it's funny because I grew up as a WWF kid. I don't know why I was like, I had to choose a side in my head. I'm like, no, I can't like WCW because I love WWF, so I can't enjoy this. So for me, I grew up, I really loved WrestleMania 2000. But what's really funny is that Ready to Rumble is what pulled me out of that, because it was so WCW. It was a WCW movie essentially. So once I started watching that, I was like, oh man, I don't like WCW. But I'm like, what am I doing? This movie's hilarious. Just enjoy it.
It's wild that like none of the NWO was in it. Like Hogan, Nash, Hall, like none of those guys. Just Macho Man has a quick cameo at the beginning, and that's it.
Yeah. And John Cena has an even quicker cameo.
Yes, I know. I love pointing that out to people. It's so random.
You see him for the half second. He's like, oh, he's right there. He's in the shadows.
Oh, that dumb, like bleach blonde hair, high and tight, man. Whew, that was a look.
That was like prototype days, right? Like prior to prototype days, probably.
Yeah, because they came out in 2000, so they must have been filming in 99 or so.
Yeah, but, prototype to prototype then.
Yeah.
So in terms of filmmaking, so how did you go from just a kid who liked watching movies and would get up at 6 a.m. and, you know, trying to make sure that you could get it in before anybody else wakes up, to actually going like, hey, I want to like make something? Like, how did that transition happen for you?
I always wanted to, but I just like, I never understood how you got there, like what the path was. Like I didn't like, it just all seemed so far away to me. And so I wasn't one of those kids who was like had like 2 VCRs set up and like were like doing their own little edits on VHS back in the day. Like I didn't have a camera or anything like that. I just always kind of admired it, and I was obsessed with any behind the scenes stuff. So like when DVDs came out, like, and there was always like little documentaries that blew my mind. Like when I first moved out on my own, didn't have cable. That's all I did is I've got hundreds of DVDs. And so I just grabbed one and watched the behind the scenes. And I was obsessed with that show, Movie Magic. You ever watch that on like Discovery back in the day?
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That show just like blew my mind. Like breaking down Aliens, how they did like the miniatures of like the ship crashing and everything, and just like, oh my God, like you could do that. Like, so I was always kind of I was always more so obsessed with how they created the effects more than anything. My mom, she works at a glasses store, and back in the day they used to film the Honey I Shrunk the Kids TV series in Calgary.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's like kind of like it I mean, it was kind of popular when it was on, but actually,
I remember the show. I just had no idea it was filmed in Calgary.
Oh, yeah. It was filmed in Calgary. It's funny, like the kid in that show actually went on to play John Connor in the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show. So a little tie into Terminator. Anyway, so she dealt with, she did all the glasses for everybody on that show who needed glasses. And so she was friends with the prop people, and she ended up, she organized it. So me and a friend of mine, my old friend Nathan, got to go on a tour of like the prop shop. And like, since it was like a sci-fi show, basically, like they had man, it just blew my mind. So that was like kind of always what I was more so interested, but that seemed like a million miles away. It's like, what kind of wizards do this job? Like, how would you even ever get to that point? So like, I just didn't understand it. And like, so I ended up just kind of working menial jobs. And then I got to the point where I was kind of in my early 20s, and I was like, man, I got to try. So I figured out that SAIT had a film production class, and I tried to get in that class multiple times throughout the years, and they just wouldn't let me in. I don't know why. I just could never get in. My grades were not good enough. Like, it was pretty competitive. So, I ended up just going and being an electrician instead, which was, it was fine. It was a good job. It sucked in the winter when I was stuck working outside. But when the pandemic happened, I ended up getting laid off, and I was like, that's the last time this is ever happening to me. I'm so over it. I was driving around in a service van, and I got paid well and everything, but it's like, man, I know how much I'm making the company, and like I'm busting my ass, and they're just kind of joking around in the office right now. And I mean, so anyway, I decided I was going to do something else, and I wasn't sure what it was going to be yet. So, and nobody was doing anything during the pandemic. So I ended up getting a cheap camera, and then I started a little YouTube channel, and just kind of, I was really into woodworking as well. I actually built this house, my tiny house.
Oh, do you live in a tiny house?
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
It's pretty sweet. I'd show you, but it's kind of a mess right now. That's my secret shame. So you're not allowed to see.
Dude, you can't see anything outside this frame, just for the record.
Yeah.
You upset me. Actually, I got a bunch of like wrestling cards right here that like I just spewed across my desk. So
mine's covered in receipts from having a business now. But anyway, yeah, so I started a small YouTube channel just doing woodworking kind of stuff. And oh, I do have one. I got two different ones actually. I've got a really quick one that just kind of shows the house, and I've got one like of me actually going through and talking about the house and everything. So
I actually got to watch this because I'm like so dumb at carpentry. Like
yeah,
I can build a computer, but I don't know how to use a hammer properly. Like I'm so dumb with that.
Yeah,
kind of
that
stuff.
was.
I built this basement.
that was one of the good things about like being a tradesman for 10 years is like it really kind of broke things down for me, you know, like I understood how to break down a job. And like, yeah, it seems impossible when you look at the entire thing, but it's like, okay, well, today I just got to get the flooring installed. Okay, well, the next couple of days I just got to frame it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But so yeah, I started this YouTube channel just doing woodworking, and that got me using a camera and editing and everything. And I was like, man, it would be really cool if I could like do this for other people. Like if someone would actually pay me to make their videos instead. And so wood started getting really expensive, and I was unemployed. So I was like, well, I can't afford to keep doing this. So that kind of fell by the wayside. And so I approached a couple friends who are tattoo artists, and I was like, hey, like, can I make you a video? They're like, yeah, of course. Like, let's do it. And so I started kind of, I made some little videos for them in their tattoo shops. And then once I had those under my belt, I ended up taking a night course at SAIT for film production. And it was not what I wanted it to be. My idea was, I was like, oh, there's going to be so many people, and I'm going to meet somebody I just hit it off with, and we're going to become partners, and we're going to start a company, and blah, blah, blah. And there only ended up being like 5 or 6 of us in the class. And then everybody was in really different points in like learning, and it was a beginner class, so you couldn't really blame them. But some people were like, didn't know how to use their camera outside of automatic mode, right? And I was kind of a little past that. And then the instructor was showing us videos on lighting that I'd already watched on YouTube. So I was like, okay, like I don't think this class is getting me where I need to be. So I ended up just kind of going off on my own. And then once I had these tattoo videos to show, there was a big municipal election coming up in Calgary. And so I was like, well, these people running for office, they're going to need videos. They're not going to know where to turn. So I approached a bunch of political candidates and be like, hey, these are the videos I've done so far. I'm like, I just started a business. I'm just trying to get into this. Like, I'll make you a video for free. And if you like it, awesome. Maybe we'll do more paid ones. And if you don't like it, then you lost nothing. And then so I had 2 awesome women take me up on it who are now sitting on council. So it worked out pretty good for them. And then that led to more stuff. And yeah,
you can use that as a selling point. 100% of your customers have been elected. I mean,
actually, it was 75%. So I ended up doing work for 4 candidates. 3 of them got in, and 1 of them should have gotten in. It was really close, but
well, I was going to say it's politics. Just fudge the numbers and say it's 100%. You're good.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like this one here from Ava. If you could do a video treatment / promo package for any wrestler of your choice, who would it be and why? And I understand that you have had a long friendship with Ava. So what I'm going to do is challenge you to not say Ava.
Oh, she'd be at the bottom of the list.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We talk
Sorry,
all the
Ava.
time about, I was like, oh, let's do something. Like when Ruby Riot came out with those really cool videos, I was like, yo, we could do this easily. Like, let's do it. And we just kind of haven't found the right idea yet. If I could do video package for anybody, I mean, like a dream match would be like Brett versus Punk. That would be like my ultimate dream match. I have a tattoo of both of them facing off on my thigh. Like that would be the ultimate for sure. But for like one single wrestler, I would say Darby, but like Darby he's already got his own guy.
Yeah,
And they
he
do a lot of
seems
cool
to know
stuff.
how to do a film on his own pretty much at this point. You need to do
Yeah.
somebody who like just can't seem to put it together. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to do like a Luchasaurus promo package or something. That'd be awesome though. You probably do some dinosaur related. That'd be really cool.
Locally, I really want to do one with the Omen, Gabriel Lestat, because
nice.
like, he's got that coffin, right? So I messaged him a while back. I was like, bro, like, let's you got this coffin. Like that is so much production value right there. But same thing, just kind of haven't come up with a good idea for it yet. But
I really hope it
eventually.
We'll what's that word? We'll manifest it and we'll put it out there that we'll get Gabriel to do this. I've spoken to Gabriel. He has agreed to do a WrestleSode. We are just waiting for the new year at this point. So I will bring it up again.
Oh yeah, he's in. He's in. I talked to him. He's all about it. But
perfect.
Got to come up with the
right. We
got to
get that idea. All right. Here's a question from Derek. Is CM Punk coming back, or are you finally giving up hope?
I'm not going to be surprised either way. If he comes back, I'll be more surprised if he does come back than if he doesn't. But I won't be surprised either way. But I mean, if he could just get over his own damn ego and like make some huge money with the Bucks and Omega, like who, like tell me that like
there.
Oh
now.
my god, I know. Like, tell me you don't want to see the Elite versus Punk and FTR. Like, let's go.
I mean, I do for sure.
Yeah, like get over it, you guys.
But even just that, just like an Omega Punk feud at this point would be so much money. So much money.
Like there's just so much that hasn't happened, like so much on the table that like could have been, and it's just like, come on, man. Like, come on. Just
I'm
like,
with you,
get out of your own
way. I
way.
love CM Punk, but I definitely think he was on the fault. I don't know. I wasn't there. Brawl Out was its own thing. But from the evidence that I have gathered, I think I'm on Team Elite, just based on everything that I had heard. So
fair enough. I'm not like, I think that they both were probably in the wrong, but I think Punk was more wrong.
The only reason I say I'm on the side of the Elite is simply because I heard Kenny saved the dog. Larry, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, anybody who chooses the dog in this situation is the side I'm choosing.
Totally.
Oh, here we go. Puts on tinfoil hat. Best of 7 series feels like it's buying time till mid-January. Punk surgery went well, and he might just be recovered by then. Maybe.
I hope so, man.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how this best of 7 series is going to end. I was kind of blown away when it first happened because I was like, best of 7. I mean, it's cool, but like, I want to see a lot of cool stuff. But I'm like, hopefully this is leading to something.
I'm not super into it, to be honest. Like, yeah, like there's just like such like those guys, like it's just like such a big deal. I feel like it kind of waters it down doing it 7 times in a row personally. And yeah, like I'd like get some other guys in there, but anyway, that's just me.
I think we're on the same page with that. It's like, it's great to watch. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm never
sure the matches are amazing.
Lucha Bros and Pac and yeah, exactly. The matches are great. I'm never going to complain about the match. I'm just kind of complaining about the fact that it's like, cool. But I did see this last week and then also the week prior. And then I'm also seeing this next week. Like, in my brain, it goes, it's a little bit too much for me.
Totally.
Ooh, I like this one. Talk about the drone and the Harlan. So I want to ask you a few questions about the Harlan Abbott video because I was live at Top Talent when it first got introduced.
Oh, sick.
I was there for the birth of Harlan Abbott. I was also there for the last match of Heavy Metal, which was in NEW in Vancouver when he had a match against Malik Malone. I was also there, so I was very excited. I'm like, hey, cool! I could see the last Heavy Metal and the first Harlan.
You
Abbott.
Trying to out nerd me here? Like, what's going on?
Bit, man. No, but I see this video, and the first thing that I think of, I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. This was the first thing of yours I had been introduced to, because I didn't actually know that it was you until, of course, it got announced that Wrestling with the Past came out, and I was looking at that. I'm like, oh, it's the same guy. And then I figured out who you were, and I was like, this is amazing. Talk first a little bit about this drone shot, and then I have my own couple questions I want to ask you about that.
Sure. Well, I'll give Metal the credit. Oh, he's Harlan Abbott now, but he'll always be Metal to me. It was all his idea. He's like, hey man, like, what do you think? Like, this is kind of what I want to do. Do you think we could do it? And I was like, yes, yes, we can. That sounds awesome. And I'm not sure exactly which drone shot she's talking about, but in the video, it's probably he's being drowned by what reveals to be his new character. And we got this really cool shot of him in this like gorgeous green glacial river water, and just like so slowly beautiful. Going up with the drone while the poor guy almost got dragged away from the river. She's trying to. How cold was that, Harlan? Dude, I felt so bad for him. It was so cold. I had a pair of rubber boots on, and every once in a while the water would like go over the top and into my foot, and I'd be like, oh my God, that's cold. But he was like, he was in it, like submerged, like drowning, right? So it was crazy cold. It was crazy cold. But so that shot turned out like so cool. Like the color is just like, it just looks so cool and adds so much production value to it. So
did you have to do a lot of color correcting in post, or was it like legitimately that beautiful?
Yeah, so I always shoot in a color profile called log, which is actually, this is kind of what my camera is in. I forgot to take it off of log. So see how so it looks a little kind of like washed out and everything. Yeah. That helps it preserve dynamic range in the picture. So like you get like brighter, like highlights that aren't as blown out, and then the shadows are not as dark. And then when you put it into post, you can
like mine right now, where all my
totally yeah. So when you bring it into post, you've just got a lot more room to kind of push and pull the colors and everything. I go through and color grade everything. Some definitely more than others, but that one was just like, it was a really simple grade. Like it just like, I mean, it's out in Elbow Falls, right? It's like, it's beautiful everywhere you look. So I didn't have to do too much to it.
How many people were actually on set for the filming of that? Because there had to have been a few of you.
For Harlan's video?
Yeah, for the Harlan's video. We'll start with that.
There was 4 of us.
Oh, it was just 4 of you, hey?
Man, I'm like, I do way too much on my own. I need to get more help. Well, something like that was not so bad, because it was I didn't have any lights or anything, because we were outside kind of walking along, right? And then there's also no sound, because like the rushing water, like, and he has loud. He has the one line at the end. So he said that when we were there, but you couldn't hear it. But he came by the house and did a little ADR, and man, that dude is unreal at ADR. Like, he is like, whenever he hears a line that he did, he can repeat it like perfectly, exactly the way he said it, like every time. And so, yeah, it was a breeze to ADR that after the fact. So yeah, it was me and my fiance, Elizabeth, who wanted a shout out. She's like, are you going to talk about me? I was like, I don't know. Like, if it comes up, I will.
I'm going to ask questions about Elizabeth now. Now she's getting her own section of the interview.
Oh, no, you're going to blow her head right up. But yeah, it was it was me, Harlan, Elizabeth, and Miss Ava Lawless came and helped us out on that. So it was just the 4 of us out there.
So who was in the robe when before Harlan revealed himself to be himself? Who was actually in the robe drowning Harlan?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say, but it was
allowed to do that.
It was Ava.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. We have broken we've broken the fourth wall. We know now that
we had to kayfabe's dead, bro.
This is
We
a
had
behind the
to,
this is a filmmaking one, not a wrestling one, guys. Okay.
we found a giant rock that was underneath the water that Metal had to like move into place for her to stand on so she could be like the same height, and then he had to be like kind of like in the middle of the water a little bit more just so it was a little bit deeper. But
Just to kind of like match that a little bit.
Yeah. Movie magic.
Well, isn't that what they do with like every Tom Cruise scene? Isn't that what I've heard? Is that they always have him stepping up on something so he could match the heights of other people?
Yeah, apparently he's really short, or he always wears like lifts in his shoes too. Apparently,
I love just learning about those like little things behind the scenes because like I went to film school. Thankfully, I was very fortunate, even though I didn't go for film or studying or anything. I went for video game design, but I made it all the way out to Vancouver Film School. So that was really cool. So I got some very basic classes in that. And I got to say, the amount of cool stuff that you learn behind the scenes in filmmaking is absolutely insane. And the people that you meet, they're so unique. I love people in filmmaking because they're not like other people in the world. They're very different types of people. They're very creative and eccentric, and I love them to death.
Some of them live on their own planet, but that's okay.
That's a really good point and way of saying that. So what camera did you end up buying during the beginning of the pandemic? Because you're like, if I got a good cheap camera.
Oh, what's this question? I'll answer this one quick.
Yeah. Two-parter. As a fan of movies and wrestling, how do you feel about the rise and fall of cinematic matches over the pandemic? Would you be interested in filming a cinematic match? That is an amazing question.
That's a fantastic question. Good job, Wrestling Rodeo. I think a lot of them turned out really cool. Especially the one with Darby and Sting.
I was just gonna say the brawl with Darby and Sting. That one was so good.
That was amazing. I got goosebumps just thinking about that. Like that was wild. Like that was so cool.
That was my favorite cinematic match too.
Yeah, so some of them are definitely more successful than others. But yeah, if I had the opportunity to shoot something like that, like I would be all about it. So Harlan, if you're listening, let's go.
There you go. One. There you go. Promoters around. If you guys want a good cinematic match, I know a guy. He's ready to go. He's well versed in the world of wrestling cinema already.
Hell yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, to answer your other question, so the first camera I bought was a Canon SL2, which was not bad. It was like a really entry level camera. I got it for like $500. It shot in 24 frames a second and 60 frames, which is all I really cared about. And then it was
not TV.
Yeah, it did 30 as well, but 30 is gross. We don't like 30 frames.
I like how I called out movies because you're like 24 and 60. I'm just like, yeah, film and internet, and you're good.
Yeah, 60 for slow mo. 60 is essential for slow motion.
That's
and then I grew out of that fairly quick, and then moved up to actually the camera that I'm on right now, which is a Canon EOS R, which is a mirrorless one. And then after that, I started making a little bit of money, and I just kept reinvesting into the company and bought a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K camera, which is what Wrestling with the Past is shot on. And now I'm on a Canon C70, which is what we shot Harlan's video on. And that's a heavy duty, like it's a Netflix approved camera. So it was like Netflix has a list of like all new content shot for them has to meet a certain spec, and this one does, so, which is pretty cool. So it was not cheap.
I was gonna say I want to ask how much that costs, but I'm gonna imagine it's somewhere in like the 8 to 10 range, probably.
It's a little less. It was.
Okay.
It was. I mean, that's without a lens, so it's $7 grand.
Okay, I wasn't too far off. Thankfully.
Yeah, you're not too far off. And then, yeah, you gotta get lenses, of course, after that, and every other stupid thing you need. So, yeah.
Well, that brings me to a good question in the next part here. Wrestling with the Past. Now, you recently made this short film. It is absolutely amazing. Honestly,
I appreciate that.
Honestly, I started watching it and I just couldn't look away. My daughter, I was just like, just look at your phone. Like she was sitting beside me. I was like, just look at your phone. I got something to watch for 30 minutes. It was so good.
Yeah.
And I got absolutely hooked. And like I've said so many times, the cinematography, the way that you shoot everything, obviously you're so talented in that.
Thank you.
So how did you go around to be like, decide one day you're like, hey, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it a independent wrestling short film that, you know, can obviously branch off into so many different things with the way that you had made it. So like, how did that come along?
Okay. This is going to be a long story. I like to talk. So, so what had happened? So I had started my company in 2021, and which it went pretty well to like right off the bat. I man, it's all who you know. Like that's everything in life. It's all who you know, and that'll come
100%.
into play for wrestling with the past. So anyway, I had an ad up on Kijiji saying that just like advertising my video services, and a guy named Aaron James messaged me saying, "You want to shoot a feature?" And I was just like, I looked over at Elizabeth and I was like, man,
No
I
way,
just got a
really?
message that could change my life. And she's like, what does it say? I was like, this guy asked if I wanted to shoot a feature. And she's like, well, what are you going to say? And I was like, well, obviously yes, but I got to hear him out first. So I just said, I'm listening. And then turned out that he had an office that was really close to my tiny house. So I went down and talked to him and begged and pleaded and told him I'd do it for as little money as as he could possibly pay me, and just wanted the opportunity. Anyway, so we ended up, he hires me. We go shoot this movie called Guitar Lessons, which is in theaters right now, starring Cord Blund. And it was his original DP had dropped out, and so he was searching for somebody else, kind of scrambling, to be honest. So I just happened to be right place, right time, and ended up going up to High Level, Alberta to shoot this movie. Anyway, so when we were shooting this movie, it was super low budget, but when we were getting like watching the footage at the end of the day kind of thing, we're like, oh, this looks really good. And like it was turning out really well. Like it was the only person who had made a movie before was the director, and he's made a couple, and the rest of us were just kind of like a ragtag group of rebels going up to face the Death Star, you know what I mean? So I had probably me and my camera assistant Austin, he had a little more experience than me, and then we had kind of the most experience out of everybody, which is not a lot. We ended up pulling this movie off, and then when I got home, I was like, wow, it was a lot easier. I don't want to say it was easy, because it was a lot of long days and hard work and everything, but it was less involved than I kind of thought it would be. And I was like, I could do this on my own. So my fiance and I had been talking about, we've been writing a Christmas movie, and I was like, man, it'd be really cool if we could just Kevin Smith that thing and make it ourselves. And so it was kind of our goal to make this Christmas movie this Christmas, which obviously it hasn't happened. But in the meantime, I was like, well, I should probably make a couple of more films in the meantime, like just some short films, just to kind of, because I could shoot it, but I'd never directed actors or anything like that. And I haven't written a whole lot in my life. So, so I was like, well, my friend Danny, who ended up going to star in the movie, he was training wrestling before the pandemic happened, and he was doing pretty well. And then pandemic happened, and I think he just kind of, he's not young. I mean, he's younger than me, son of a bitch, but he just decided he didn't want to take bumps. He's like, I'm married, and like, I kind of don't want to like really injure myself badly or anything. So, but anyway, so he's really handsome and charming. And I was like, man, so if we made a short film about wrestling, and Danny was in it, like that could be really cool. And then, so I asked him, I was like, hey man, like, would you want to be in a short film about wrestling? And he's like, yeah, sure. That sounds cool. And I was like, all right, sweet. I'm going to write it, and then I'll send it to you, and you let me know what you think. And so within a week or two, I had it written and sent it to him. He's like, okay, cool, man. Yeah. Like whatever, let's do it. And then, so I started putting stuff together, and I reached out to Harlan. I was like, hey man, like, do you think we could come up to your wrestling school and shoot a little bit of stuff? And he's like, yeah, sure. Whatever you need, kind of thing. And then I was like, do you think Squig would let us shoot at RCW? And he's like, yeah, probably. And so he's like, I'll put the bug in Squig's ear. And so I ended up messaging Squig, and I sent him a message on Facebook, and I sent him a message with half of what I was asking for. And before I could even get the second half out, he's like, yeah, sure. Whatever you need, come by whenever.
Squig
like,
is the best. I love that for Squig.
Yeah, man. So like, one thing that I really kind of like whenever I'm in a position to give any kind of advice to anybody about anything, but especially younger filmmakers, is just like, just ask, man. Like, people are like so willing to like help you out if you ask, but so many people are just kind of afraid, right? So anyway, so we had all our locations, and I got Danny. He was the lead, and because I couldn't have done it without him. Like, there was a couple other wrestlers that we were kind of thinking about, but I was like, it's got to be Danny or nothing, basically. And I lost my
It's like
train
you
of
wrote
thought.
the position for him. How a lot of
Oh,
writers, well, they will
I
write positions for
100%.
specific actors, and when it doesn't go to them, it's just really weird.
Yeah, I 100% wrote it for him to be in it, and so luckily he said yes. And then when it came to casting the mother character, that's actually my mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Get what you can get, right?
yeah. So that was one of the roles where I was like, okay, like this one I might have to pay somebody. And I was willing to, because I knew, because up till this point, I just asked people if they want to be in it. Like, yeah, sure. And nobody asked to get paid or anything. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And so, but that was one of the roles I was like, yes, she did kill it. So that was one of the roles I was prepared to pay somebody for. And I had been famously anti-Facebook for like since Facebook came out. But then I found out that that's where all the actors all kind of meet on the Facebook groups, and that's where everybody gets their jobs. So I was like, fuck, I guess I'm going to have to get Facebook. So sign up for Facebook, put in an ad out on one of the Calgary film groups. And then my mom messaged me and she's like, you're on Facebook? Did hell freeze over? And I was like, no, I'm looking for actors. And she's like, I'm an actor. Do you need an old lady? And I was like, yeah, I do actually. And the more I thought about it, I was like, she'd actually be perfect. Like, she's the right age, and like you could tell she was an attractive woman when she was young. And I was like, maybe that could work. And so I was like, you really want to do it? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, when's the last time you acted? Knowing the answer. And she's like, high school. I was like, yeah, okay. So I sent her the script, and she was like, yeah, I like it. Let's do it. So I was like, okay, like I got to come see if you can actually act. Like, just because you're my mom doesn't mean that I'm automatically casting you. So I went over to her house, and we ran some lines, and she was way up here. And I was like, Mom, I need you down here. Like, she was hamming it
Like,
up.
bring it
good.
down, bring it down a little.
Yeah, is less is more, and we need a lot less. But by the time I left, I was like, she's not bad. Like, I think she was gonna be able to do it. I hope. And then by the time she actually came on the reverse nepotism, by the time she actually came, the first scene that we shot was the breakfast scene between her and Finn. And when she got on set, which is just my fiance's house, because that's what we had access to, she crushed it. And I was like, holy shit, like, that was really good. Good work, Mom. Awesome. You too, Danny. And yeah, everybody who's seen the movie, like, everybody is like, oh man, that mom is really good. Like, she was great. She should be in more stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's my mom. She works at a glasses store.
She knows your prescriptions like nobody's business.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, in a long roundabout way, that's how the idea came up. It was just going to be practice for a Christmas movie that we want to make, and now it's just kind of taking on a life of its own.
So here's a good question here from Ava. What was the most challenging part of making Wrestling with the Past, and what was the easiest? Those are great questions. People are on fire tonight with their questions.
Hell yeah. Honestly, like, it all came together pretty quick. The most challenging part was probably actually just working around people's schedules, because when people are doing it for free, it's not like you can be like, you have to take this day off work and you have to be here at this time, right? It's like, oh, could you do Tuesday night? Oh, no, you can't do Tuesday. Okay, well, I'll shift everything. And can you do Sunday? You know what I mean? So that was definitely the hardest part, was working around everybody's schedules. And then it actually put us back quite a bit. I had an entirely different actor cast as Frankie Sinclair, the greasy promoter in the movie. I was going to cast a wrestler named Steve Rivers.
Okay,
And
yeah, Steve.
yeah, so like he's kind of an older guy, and he's still like jacked as hell. And I was like,
Yep.
because I wanted to get an older wrestler, because this guy was supposed to be a wrestler, right? So
my girlfriend has nicknamed Steve Rivers at shows "Sexy Grandpa." That's what she calls him. So I understand entirely what you're talking about.
Okay, perfect. And then he ended up he was gonna be getting shoulder surgery, I believe it was, but he was going to be getting it the day after we were going to film at an RCW event. And then they ended up changing the date of his surgery and moved it up. So he had just gotten surgery when we were going to film. So he had to drop out, which was too bad. And then I found this other guy, Scott Jansen, who's a local actor out of Westeros, Alberta. Like, who knew
we have our own Westeros?
Yeah. All right. Like,
Jeez.
He told me he's from Westeros. I was like, where the hell is that? So yeah, he came.
Kingdom.
Yeah, so he sent me a headshot, and it was actually when Danny and I were up shooting at Metal School. We were at an RCW show because we had to stay overnight. We shot a Saturday afternoon, then Sunday morning at Metal School. So we were at the RCW event, and this guy messaged me, and I went to Danny and said, "Oh my God, I've got the perfect guy for Frankie," and then showed him to him. He's like, "Oh, perfect, finally!" And because we were sweating when Rivers had to drop out, because we were like, oh my God, like, it's kind of like, I mean, we can do it. We can kind of shoot at RCW, like they're running shows every Friday, so we could shoot whenever, but like, I just wanted to get it done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was probably the most challenging part, was just working around schedules. And the easiest part, was, I mean,
going home like, at the end of the day.
No, like, honestly, man, like it came together like really well. Like I wrote the script in like what is like record time for me, because I'm not much of a writer, but it was just like I just had to write either the first episode of a show or the first act of a movie, right? So like that's kind of the easiest part. So I had it written really quick, and then I had it cast reasonably quick, and then everybody was like open to letting us shoot where we needed to, except for Danny's work. He works for a company called Helsum, and they do like debit and like machine like debit machines and
like
stuff,
an Interact kind of thing.
Yeah, they do that for like local businesses here. So I wrote the line about he's probably working in a cubicle somewhere. He was supposed to be in a cubicle at Helsum, but they were like, you know what, we kind of have financial records all over the place. Like, we can't let you film in here. We're like, all right, yeah, that's makes sense. Like, if my finances were here, I'd probably not want anyone to shoot here anyway. So I reached out to a dude named Jay McDonald, who is cousins with my friend Todd McDonald, who's actually he was the model for the older Flint Wild in all the pictures. That's my friend Todd.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so his cousin owns a creative company called Rome Creative, and they have a really cool spot in Inglewood. So I was like, hey man, like, can we come in and like for like 2 hours and just shoot a quick scene? And he's like, sure, yeah, I'll put you in touch with our with the producer. He'll be around. And he asked for a 6-pack, and I was like, done. We kind of went in there and shot.
Can't ask for better than that. Just a 6-pack, eh?
Yeah, just Danny and I just went in, just the two of us, and shot it out and pretty quick. And yeah, so that was
what was the total filming time then for Wrestling with the Past?
So we were about 6 days of like varying times. Some days it was just a couple hours, and some days it was a little longer. But yeah, we got it filmed out pretty quick.
What was the longest part of it then? Was it, because you said if you filmed it out in about 6 days, that's really great. You said writing it took about 2 weeks. Was it mostly post, or was it like trying to just get it in places? Like, let's see where we can put this thing up, because that takes forever time, or a long time too.
Yeah, I guess the longest part of this whole journey has just been entering it to film festivals.
Right. Yeah.
So I entered it into a ton of festivals, and a lot of them are strict about where it's playing. So if it's like, especially like I really wanted it to get in the Calgary Film Festival, the Calgary International Film Festival. But they said, if it's like screening on, if it's like freely screening online, and then it's kind of disqualified. And if it's like shown on a public screening in Calgary, then that's also disqualified. So a lot of it was just waiting until because they want to be like, they want to premiere it, right? Like they don't want to, anyway, they want to get the butts in seats. And so if something's already played there, then people are less inclined to go see, right? So so yeah, that was the longest part. Like it's just because it's been done since May, and I've just been waiting on film festivals. And finally, the last couple that I'm still waiting to hear back on, they don't care about if it's played publicly or if it's online. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna put it online. So.
That's awesome. So what's so other than the Calgary International, what are some of the other ones that you've reached out to? Because are a lot of Canadian ones, or are you just trying to put it out everywhere?
Well, I mean, like it costs between like $40 and $100 depending on the film fest. But yeah, I probably submitted to almost 30 film festivals, I think. And I didn't get into a whole lot like competition. There's a lot of stories like mine where people can just pick up a camera and go to YouTube University nowadays and learn how to do it, which is awesome. But it also makes things a little more saturated. But anyway, when you submit a short film to a festival, they like to have them pretty short, around 10 minutes, because they could either show my film, which is 28 minutes long, or they could show 3 other 10-minute movies, right? So it just kind of makes more sense for them to put the shorter ones in. So every time I reached out, I was like, hey, do you have any feedback about my movie? Like, thanks for considering it, but like, is there anything I could do better next time? And a lot of people were like, it's great. Like it turned out really well. It's just a little bit too long. And I was like, all right, fair enough. So, yeah.
So you said that you could do so many different things with wrestling with the past. You could turn it into like a mini series. You could continue it on as a movie and all that kind of stuff. Of all the different routes that it could take, what do you think would tell the best story? Like, what would you prefer it to be?
Well, career-wise, I kind of just want to make it a feature-length movie and just get it out there, kind of thing. Just because it's hard as like a filmmaker at my level, which is not like I'm super new into my career, right? So it's tough. Like, yeah, I've got ideas, but everybody's got ideas, and it's hard to convince a bigger production company or streamer or whoever to give us millions of dollars to make it into a TV series, right? Like, which is what I mean. Ultimately, I think it would be awesome as a series. I think you got stuff like Heels, which was really good, but this is kind of, Heels is more so like these guys, like they're already in this established world, whereas Finn Wild
and they're
is
established themselves.
Yeah, Finn Wild is he's the audience, right? He's this entry point into this whole new world, and he's learning along with everybody else, kind of thing. So I mean, yeah, I would love for it to be a series. And I mean, it's wrestling, it happens every week, right? Like, it's really easy to, like, he's gonna meet so many characters when he starts training, and then when he eventually gets into the ring, and
you could tell so many stories and feuds,
so
and
many,
just
man.
like it would be so awesome. I always said that wrestling in itself could be a television show, because you could make it more cartoony, and you could make it more over the top, and you can make it more dramatic. And I think that'd be really great as like a TV series. I don't actually like when it's super duper dramatic in my actual wrestling, but like when I'm watching a movie, like, pull me in, tell me that story, make me care as much as I can, right?
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, I've been talking to, I've been kind of slowly trying to convince somebody to give me some money to make it into a series. I've got a little bit of interest here and there, nothing to really report yet though. But if that doesn't pan out, then I am hoping to hopefully just raise some money and secure some grants and make it into a feature ourselves. And then if that doesn't happen, then I'll just finish the movie at the same production level that the short was, and just throw it out there to somebody.
And I want to ask another quick question as well as we get closer to the end here, because I know this was kind of like your passion, what you wanted to do, but it hasn't come around yet. Tell me a little bit about your Christmas movie, because I know you were talking about how you wanted to make a Christmas movie, and you didn't get a chance to, obviously, this year, and because other projects kind of got in the way. But I'm super interested in you saying you want to make a Christmas movie. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's called Keeping Up with Christmas, and it's about a young millennial couple rather, who just feels like they're always in competition with the main character's older brother, who seems to be, it's like when you go on Instagram and you look and you're like, oh, everybody's life is perfect but mine. But that's all you see, right? They only post the good stuff on Instagram. And so it's kind of just about trying to keep up with what you think is this curated life that looks perfect, but it's actually like everybody, like most people, like so many people are just sitting at home on Friday night in their jammies watching Yellowstone. You know what I mean? It's life isn't as perfect for everybody as social media makes it out to be. And it's just
we all wake up at
deals with
2
that.
a.m. needing Tums. Like it happens to everyone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Human, right?
Absolutely. We are. Yeah.
Talking about keeping up with your older brother, I'll just give him a shout out. Hello, Disc. My older brother is in chat, so I just wanted to give him a big shout out as I said that.
What's up, man?
All right, but so you've been doing. Oh wait, there hasn't been enough stories about wrestling in space. Oh, there you go. Maybe
Wrestling with the Past X.
ready to rumble. : in space. There you go.
Oh, now we're talking.
It's on Mars. Kids are crowning people in space. That'd be so great. There we go. Fantastic.
I guess you get a story credit for that one.
There, if it happens, I'll just be happy to see it, because now that's amazing. But you have been working on a bunch of different stuff. Do you have any other things that are kind of like, I know you just finished up with Guitar Lessons, the movie there with Corb Lund, like you said, that's in theaters. Wrestling with the Past, you just finished up that part of the short film, and you're looking for the next steps and everything. What are you keeping busy with now? Like, what's got your hand? Are we allowed to know?
Sure, yeah. So I run a small production company called Wild One Films, and outside of doing cool, fun stuff like stuff for Harlan Abbott or Wrestling with the Past, I got to do some other stuff to pay the bills. So I produce a cooking show on Cart, which is a website. It's kind of membership based. But yeah, I've produced like 3 seasons of a cooking show for them with a local chef named Neil Schneider, who is on Top Chef Canada, Master Chef Canada. He was on a Canadian cooking show. Anyway, he's awesome. So I do a lot of work for them. I shoot a lot of real estate videos just to kind of get some money coming in, get me out of the house during the day. And then I do like a lot of corporate videos and that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So you're keeping busy. So the new business, it's been a success then, at least you're keeping fed.
Yeah, man. Like it was kind of, I always felt like, cause I was like I said, I was an electrician before, and you make pretty good money as an electrician. And I was worried about taking a pay cut. And after I got laid off, I was like, oh, I guess I can't afford to take a pay cut to go do something new. So, but my first year in business, I made almost as much as I did as an electrician. And this year I've made quite a bit more than that. So
awesome. So things are doing really well for you then.
Yeah, man, they really are. It's wild. Man, if you would have told me like a couple years ago when I was driving around in a service van that I'd be sitting on a podcast with Anthony talking about my short film and talking about the feature film that I've got in theaters right now, like I would have told you were crazy, right? Like it's wild what happens when you bet on yourself.
Well, I appreciate you throwing my name in there like it meant something compared to the other things.
This is the first podcast I've ever done, and hopefully I'll get to do more, but like you never forget your first.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm really glad you were able to come on here. I'm surprised it hasn't been asked that you've been on other podcasts, because Wrestling with the Past has been phenomenal, especially within the Alberta wrestling scene, because you had a whole bunch of different wrestlers in there acting. Like you said, you got Harlan Abbott, you had Stephen Crow with talking lines. You saw pictures and video with Ava Lawless and Mars and TJ and like all these names, right? Like there are so many different wrestlers there that the Alberta wrestling scene just knows, and we're highlighted in that. So like, I'm actually surprised that I was the first person to actually say, hey, let's get you on here. Let's do this.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I'm I'm glad it
I
happened.
it's gonna
Anyway.
happen. Anybody else who's listening right now, this is gonna. I will be your first of many, hopefully. But I really wish you literally the best because I want to see Wrestling with the Past continue. I'm really excited for your new Christmas movie that you want to make and everything, and even just anything else that you work on. I watched the trailer earlier today for guitar lessons, and I'm like, I'm not a big country guy. Like I know who
Mhm.
Core Blord is, and I know their music and everything, but like I was never. But I watched that trailer. I was like, I want to watch this movie. This is awesome. So
It's a nice little movie, man. It was really it was like it was I don't know where I would be if I didn't get to work on that movie, and I don't know I wouldn't have gotten to work on that movie if I didn't just go out and try, man. Like DPing a feature, like being the director of photography, not anything gross.
right.
Is
I know what you
wild.
meant.
I know you knew.
Everybody else has got the dirty mind in here.
But like, dude, it doesn't happen to people who are at my kind of experience level. And I was really lucky. I've gotten a lot of really great opportunities. I always tell my fiance is like, oh, I've been so lucky. And she's like, well, no, you've earned it. And it's like, well, I've gotten a lot of, I've been lucky to get the opportunities I've had, but I've always made the most of them when I got them. So that's my best piece of advice, I guess, to people.
I think that's a great way of looking at it too, right? Like a lot of people say, like I also consider myself incredibly fortunate, right? Like I go out,
Mhm.
I get to talk to wrestlers, and I get to talk to people who work in wrestling and all this kind of stuff. Like it's my job. I've done like 100 interviews or something like that. Like
Yeah.
it's a crazy number, but at the same time, I always get that I'm just like, well, I get it because I reach out and I talk to people and I try hard, and it's all about like who you just reach out to because, like you said, a lot of people you just got to reach out and say, hey, this is me. This is what I do. Would you like to be a part of something that I'm working on? And like 90% of the time, people are always super enthusiastic to help out, right? It's so great. And
For sure, man. I'm going to put Ava on blast here for how cool is it to have an IMDb. It's cool. I had to make it myself. So, but yeah, it's
it
cool to,
counts just like Wikipedia. Even if you make it yourself, it counts.
hell yeah. I'm going to put Ava on blast. I was listening to her interview with you earlier, and she
Oh,
was
thank you.
talking when she first got into the ring on one of MRB's camps, but that's actually not the first time she got into the ring. A friend of ours, we were all sitting around one day trying to figure out what to do for our friend Todd's birthday a few years ago. And somebody's like, oh man, it'd be so cool if we could go to Landstorm school for a day and just kind of like, just learn how to run the ropes, learn how to take a bump. And man, that would be really cool. 5 minutes later, our friend Mitch is like, okay, I emailed him. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, I just emailed him. And I was like, I found it like the Storm Wrestling email. I emailed him. We're like, okay. And so Lance emailed back. And after a little bit of back and forth, he agreed to let, how many of us went in? I got a picture right here, actually.
Oh,
He let a bunch of us come in. There's Ava there.
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, he let a bunch of us come in, and there's Finn there too, actually, the star of the movie. He let us come in and he taught us how to bump and run the ropes and do some forward rolls, and it was just like that was the first time that really hammered home. Was like, you don't know if you don't ask.
Well, I like this from Ava. People think I've trained with Lance. If I say you technically did, I mean,
did.
it's
You
not
did.
it's not a length of time thing. You did it.
We were no. We were the fastest graduates he's ever had. We had one class and we were ready to rock.
That's such a cool like thing to be able to say, right? Like, not only did you manage to go and get training for like a single day, you got trained by Lance Storm of all people, right? Like the dude's a legend in terms of like training wrestlers. He's like the top of the list of people who've done it.
Absolutely. And he was just he was a little apprehensive at first because he's like, I'm not sure what I just got myself into. But like once we were in there and we were paying attention and we were not like just goofing around, like we wanted to learn, but we also were picking his brain about all kinds of old wrestling stories and all that kind of too. And by the end, I think he had a good time. I imagine that he had a good time. I tell myself.
Did he compliment any of your moves? Did he say anything? Because I know how hard it is to make him compliment certain things. So when it happens, people go overjoyed.
He must have. Like he was encouraging. Like he was like, yeah, good. Or like do it again. Try this. Like he was a good coach for just kind of dicking around for the day.
Do you feel like it was one of your best like single day experiences from like going from a nothing to learning something?
Man, it was amazing. Like we were, I mean, it's kind of, I'm a little more free to talk about this now since he doesn't have the school anymore and he won't have people like, hey, could we come? Could we come? Because I imagine that would get super annoying. But for some reason, Mitch was able to convince him and we went in. But yeah, it was amazing. Like we were there for about 4 hours and like, because all of us were just like, none of us had been in a ring before. And we just like, you watch for years and you're like, what does that feel like? What does a bump actually feel like? Like how much foam is actually on the top of the mats? Like what do those ropes feel like? And they hurt. They don't feel good.
The answer is not enough foam and the ropes hurt. That's the answer.
Oh, they're brutal. But it was like, it was so fun. And then like we went and watched a pay-per-view that evening and all of us just basically passed out at Todd's house and we were just, it was exhausting because you've like, those are kind of things that you never do exercise wise. Right. So we were all just passed out and our necks were hurting because we had to tuck our chin. Right. And that's not something you just normally do. So, but yeah, it was like, that was such an experience. I'll always hold really dear. Cause like I would love to wrestle, but I love poutine and burritos too much. Like I'm never going to get into that good of shape. And I'm like getting old. Like I'm past the DDP age of starting now. So it's like, I'm a little too late to wrestle, but I can make movies about it.
There you go. I think I've got 1 year left till the DDP age, so we'll see if I can catch up. I think that's about. He was 35, right? 35 was when he's
35. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got 1 year till go. Well, I've always said that I always wanted to do a training or like a camp myself because like I got to learn what it's like. I totally should, right?
Just like
I know everybody, so
even if you just do the one, like yeah, try it out. Just like you just got to get in there. Like when you take your first bump, you're just like laying there flat and you're like, okay, that hurt, but it didn't hurt like I thought it would. And it's like, I was like, okay, I could do that again. That's not so bad.
Hey, if it means I could get like some sort of weird background extra spot in one of your films doing just like a grapple or something, I'll train for whatever I can do. So
oh, we can get you in there. We can get
I'll take whatever. I'll be towel boy. That's totally fine. Whatever you need. I just want to be in a movie at this point. That'd be amazing to say.
Yeah,
I'll make it the best towel boy you've ever seen, though. Let me tell you right now.
You better. I'm gonna hold you to that.
All right. Well, before we do let you go, Justin, where you want to do some plugs, talk a little bit about what you've done, where people can find you, and pump yourself up just a little bit more. Because I love it.
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter and Instagram at wild1one Justin. And check out Wrestling with the Past on YouTube. Like it's just on YouTube. You can find it. Just type in Wrestling with the Past or look up Wild One Films, I think. Or look up my name, something like it's out there. Hopefully, maybe put a link on the YouTube description when this goes up
for you.
Yeah, just like see the movie and like we'll see what happens. It might get to the point where we try to do some crowdfunding for it. So if we could raise a little money to do it ourselves, that would be incredible too. So. And then showcase some of Alberta's finest in the process. That would be amazing.
Well, I love to hear that. If it does come to the crowdsourcing, you let me know. I will give you free stream time. I will do interviews. I will do tons of content for you to make it nice so you can get some stuff for
my man.
Whatever you need.
Perfect.
But thank you so much, Justin. Seriously, thank you once again. Honestly, Wrestling with the Past was so great. I really do got to go out and watch Guitar Lessons because after watching that trailer, it was legitimately a great trailer. I'm a big fan of the amount of stories that you can tell and the way you tell them with your cinematography and the way you choose your shots and the way especially you light your shots, because lighting a shot is incredibly hard to do properly. And that was one thing I noticed that you were excellent in and flawless. No scene actually looked cheap because of flat lighting can make it can turn a beautiful scene into something kind of ugly. And every single one of your scenes was popped and beautiful. You had really nice shading and really great colors and all that kind of stuff. I really liked especially scenes where you had like a lot of like the really darks against like really bright stuff, especially like in the ring when you had like the solo lights hitting just like one side of the face. It's beautifully lit It is so well told. The story is great. Seriously, anybody who's out there listening, please go watch Wrestling with the Past and go follow Justin. Go watch it on YouTube. Give him a like and subscribe and leave a comment, because we have to blow this movie up so we can get it made
Hell
into
yeah.
either a feature film or, you know, a mini series or whatever it is. But it needs, the story needs to be told.
That's the thing. Like I have people who like don't even really like wrestling. They're like, when because it ends on a cliffhanger, spoiler alert, and they're just like, that's it. Like it ends there. Like I went out to coffee with the local actor recently, just who saw the movie we had a big screening a couple weeks ago, and he was like, why didn't you just finish it? I was like, well, I did. Like, I don't have the money to finish it. Like, I was like, it's a short film. It was just to get people interested.
You get 25%. Let's get the other 75% going.
Yeah,
that's what's
he's
happening.
Like, you should have just finished it. I was like, yeah, that would have been nice, but here we are.
Right, but that didn't happen. So now we get to finish it later.
Yeah, one day
Perfect.
we will. Even if it's at like that same production level, we will finish the story.
Absolutely. I mean, even if it's at that production level is really, really good, especially for an independent film, in my opinion.
Like I appreciate it, man, because we didn't spend much on it. It might actually shock you to know we spent $1,500 on that
total.
Yeah, and most of that money went to the sound designer that I hired at the end, because he that was the only thing that I kind of couldn't do on my own. Well, I tried and it sounded like dog shit, and he really elevated the movie.
It is not an easy skill. When I was doing sound editing and stuff, I made shitty sound editing back in college. Like when I went to VFS, one of the classes we had was for sound editing, and they gave us a clip from the Seventh Element, and they're like, take this scene, it's in completely like no sounds, and re-add all your sounds. And mine sounded horrible. So I've never been good at audio engineering or anything like that. So
it's so hard.
I understand why that's one of the things that you had to outsource, and you're like, nope, I'm not doing this one. No,
it's black magic, man.
You know what I mean? But yeah, sound as a whole. Here's the thing, though. A bad video, people will still watch, but bad sound, people will turn off immediately. It is a number one thing to like drive people away, is bad audio more than bad video. It blows my mind.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So,
but anyways, Justin, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really do appreciate this. Honestly, as coming down to being the last interview here for 2022 before we break into 2023, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about your experiences in film editing, filmmaking, and the stuff that you've got going on, because it's really cool.
I appreciate it, man. This means the world to me. I've been like just dying to do a podcast, and like, this is the coolest. I wish I could just do a podcast all the time.
I'll make sure to have you back, especially when we get some more information as to what's happening. We'll bring you back on here.
Once we have something else to talk about, for sure.
Perfect. All right. Well, you have yourself a wonderful, great night, Justin. I will pank you over, and I will say our goodbyes to everybody.
Okay.
All right. Cheers, buddy. All right, a big thank you once again to Justin Godlien for joining me here today. Seriously, if you haven't watched it, remember to go and watch Wrestling with the Past, or you guys can go into theaters and watch Guitar Lessons, the film that he had made there with Corb Lund, which was really cool. I got to see the trailer for that today. And if you haven't checked it out, go check out the Harlan Abbott birth video that he has posted. It's on YouTube as well. It's absolutely amazing. And I was really just so thankful to be able to chat with Justin here today. And a big thank you to all of you for watching, because I always really appreciate you tuning in and giving me your support and helping us continue to make WrestleSode even better. So a big thank you to you. Remember to, if you haven't, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment or anything down below if you can, because it does make these videos go even further, and it goes a long way to really helping us out. A lot of cool stuff going to be happening here in the new year. I'm really excited for it, for season 3. Obviously, with the holidays coming up here, nobody's going to be tuning in on Tuesday nights from now on until basically the beginning of the new year. So there's going to be no planned WrestleSodes. If anything changes, I will make sure to post about it on all of my social medias. Or if I'm just doing some fun gaming streams, you might be able to catch me here on Jupiter Vision. But a big thank you to all of you. Much love. And I'm going to disappear here because my little girl is sick. I want to make sure she was put to bed and everything is okay with that. So I will chat with all of you soon. Also remember to go and follow the Canadian Wrestling Archive as well on YouTube. Subscribe to that as well, because that's where we upload a lot of really cool stuff. They also do have a TikTok, so things have been getting uploaded to that slowly. A lot of really cool things that we're doing, and everything should be evolving out nicely. So a big thank you to Shout Out to Cloud, who does so much work for the stream, and the Canadian Wrestling Archive. The guy's super awesome. So much love to him. All right, everybody, have yourself a wonderful night. I'm going to disappear, and I will chat with all of you later. Bye-bye. Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks, Max.